What is up, guys? Rogue TCG. This video is going to be on the current TCG meta of Yu-Gi-Oh! This recording date is 2/23/2022. This is after the most recent ban list that hit Drytron into Oblivion and a bunch of other decks. I'm only going to be going over relevant hand traps in my opinion, and later in the video I'm going to be describing how to be properly using them against meta decks, like where to be hitting them. The three decks I'm really going to be referring to is going to be 4 decks: Tribrigade, Striker, Phantom Knight, and Swordsoul. So let's get started. First, let's start off with the Ghost Girls, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I'm going to be reading out the effects if you guys don't know. So Ash Blossom, when a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, quick effect, discard it, negate that effect. The effects that it can negate is an effect that would add a card from deck to hand, special summon a card from the deck, or send a card from the deck to the graveyard, and that's a hard once per turn. Ash Blossom is very good. It stops recruiters, stops cards that summon from the extra deck, and I think it's kind of mandatory at the moment, given the amount of cards that want to be searching stuff out. Next is going to be Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Ghost Ogre, now that Emergency Teleport is at 3, I believe it is much better than it was previous, because it's one of the only Ghost Rolls that can activate from on field, and it's also like easy field material to make Halqifibrax. It says when a monster on the field activates effect, or when a spell or trap that's already base up activates effect, send send Ghost Ogre from the hand to the grave, destroy the target. Ghost Ogre has a couple uses and has seen some niche play, specifically when talking about Guard Dragons and stuff like that. But Ghost Ogre at the moment is primarily here just to counter the Brave Engine, because it does stop the continuous spell from creating a token, because since it leaves the field, it resolves without effect. So because every deck can be basically using the Brave Engine, we run Ghost Ogre. Some people may want to side it, some people may want to main it. Decks that run E-Telly in the main could probably main 1 or 2 Ghost Ogres just to have it, you know. Next, these two are a little bit debatable. I put Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. When a card or effect that activates any of those effects, quick effect, discard it, negate it. Add a card from the graveyard to hand, deck, or extra deck, special summon a monster from the grave, or banish a card from the grave, and you can only use that effect once per turn. Ghost Bell I put on here specifically for both Phantom Knight and for, well, it hits a lot of the decks. It hits Phantom Knight, hits Swordsoul, and it hits Tribrigade. It actually hits all of them, and Striker. So I'm going to be going over specific interactions there. It was used previously back in 2021 format, when Tribrigade Pure or Tribrigade Zoo was really good. It stopped them from getting the Revolt off, because that would special summon a card from the grave. And that's very similar to the application here. Lastly, for the Ghost Girls is Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. This is a very niche pick, but since everyone's playing Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, you can just throw one in the extra deck if you have a space and just banish him. I think this is more of a side deck card. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, discard it, reveal a card in the extra, look at your opponent's extra, banish all cards in their extra with the same name as the card that you revealed. So it basically just gets rid of Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, and that's basically it. Next, we have DD Crow. DD Crow has a very similar effect to Ghost Reaper Winter Cherries. By banishing Phoenix Enforcer, it can banish Artifact Scythe in the grave to stop them from recurring themselves. And if you get Phoenix Enforcer after activated its effect, they have to bring back Dasher or Celestial, which is suboptimal for them. Yeah, and DD Crow has the effect where you can quick effect discard it to banish a card in the graveyard. You can also get rid of Engage in Sky Strikers as well. Effect Veiler. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, send this card from your hand to the grave, target an effect monster that your opponent controls, and negate the effects of that face-up monster until the end of the turn. Effect Veiler is really good against, I believe, all of the decks, really. It stops the Swordsoul guys from getting their tokens, stops Bardiche from resolving, stops certain Phantom Knight cards from resolving, stops all the Tribrigades. I'm also going to lump Infinite Impermanence in that. Infinite Impermanence is a trap card where you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and negates effects, and if you control no cards, you can activate it from hand. It's slightly better just because you can negate an Apollousa on your turn as the first play, because Tribrigade sets up Apollousa and so do some PK variants. Yeah. Now we have Cyframe Gear Gamma. Gamma, I believe, may see a resurgence just because Tribrigade's coming back, and Tribrigade likes playing Gamma, as well as Driver. If you already are Driver and Gamma can be used as small world bridges, which is really pretty useful. So yeah, Gamma, if you control no monsters, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, special it, and one Cyframe Driver, which is a normal monster, level 6 with 2500 attack, 0 defense, from your hand or deck or graveyard, negate the effect of the monster effect that was activated and destroy it. And then banish both Gamma and Driver at the end of the turn. What you want to be doing is you want to be activating Rescue Cat while you have Gamma in hand, because Rescue Cat banishes itself for cost. If your opponent ashes it, you can negate the ash and get a free Omega to rip a card out of hand. Now we're going to moving on to the more Floodgate-like hand traps. I have 3 of them here. I have Nibiru, the Primal Being. During the main phase of your opponent, no more special summons 5 or more monsters this turn. Quick effect, distribute all face-up monsters on field or as much as possible. Special summon Nibiru, the Primal Being from your hand. It's a level 10, 3000 attack, 600 defense, rock, light. And then special summon a Primal Being token, level 11, or actually it's a level 11, I'm sorry. A level 11 token with attack equal to the amount of attack and defense as all the tributed monsters had added up. It's just really good for stopping. PK specifically has some trouble with it. I believe that's the only deck that it really hits on the decks that I named. But yeah, Nibiru is pretty good. It stops a lot of rogue decks as well that just like comboing off like Orcust and stuff like that. Now we have Dimension Shifter. There's only going to be really one deck that's kind of on the cusp of meta at the moment that's going to be using Dimension Shifter, and no, it's not Mutant. Unfortunately, Mutant isn't as good as I'd like to think it is. It is going to be Floowandereeze. Dimension Shifter says if you have no cards in your grave, quick effect, send this card from your hand to the grave until end of the next turn. It's a Macrocosmos. Any card sent to the grave is banished instead. This is really good against all of the meta decks, because they all like having cards in the grave, specifically Phantom Knight and Sky Strikers, and Tribrigade. Maybe Swordsoul can play around it, but they prefer not to. So D-Shifter is really good. Lastly, we have Artifact Lancia. Artifact Lancia is a level 5 Fairy Light with 1700 attack and 2300 defense. You can set it from your hand to the spell and trap zone as a spell. During your opponent's turn, if this set card in the spell or trap zone is destroyed and sent to the grave, special it. And during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can tribute it from your hand or face of field. Neither player can banish cards for the rest of the turn. This card is specifically aimed towards getting rid of Phantom Knight specifically, but it's also run fairly heavily in Phantom Knight, both in the main and in the side, because they use Artifact Dagda to set an artifact from deck, and if they hard drew Scythe, they can set Lancia and get both of them off in the same turn. But yeah, Lancia is really good against PK. I believe that's going to be all the hand traps, and I'm going to be back in just a moment with all the decks and the interactions. Alright guys, so the first deck we're going to be talking about is Tribrigade. So Tribrigade, we're going to start off with Ash. There's only 3 real Ash targets in the deck. That's going to be Fractal when discarding. Actually, I want to say 4 really. Fractal when discarding, Fire Formation Tenki. There is going to be Bearbrum, the Baron Blossom, I believe it is, which is searching Revolt. And there's going to be Nerval or Rescue Cat. You do not want to be ashing Rescue Cat most of the time. You want to be a little bit more preemptive with one of the other hand traps if they Rescue Cat. But Ash Blossom on Fractal, Nerval, Kit. I'm putting Nerval and Kit together because Kit dumps Nerval. Any one of those is probably going to be pretty good. I want to say most likely the best bet is going to be either a Tenki or a Fractal, just because that'll prevent them from getting more monsters in grave or searching a Fractal or something like that. If you're ashing the end of that big line of combos with Nerval, you're going to be leaving them with a bunch of Beast Warriors, a Winged Beast in grave for them to be banishing if they just have like a Karos in hand or something like that. Now we're going to be moving on to Cherries. Cherries is pretty good if you're running like Floowandereeze, because you can just have a Sure Egg in your extra deck, and Cherries pitch itself, get rid of their Sure Eggs forever. So that's pretty good against them, just like at the start, any point in the turn, really. Ghost Ogre, it depends if they're running the Brave tokens, which I don't think many are, but if they are, you get the Brave token engine, obviously. Otherwise, you can hit the Farigite when it's activating its effect to special summon a card from hand, putting them down materials and putting them so they have to waste that activation, and they are not going to be able to get to an Apollosa very easily. Ghost Ogre in Haunted Mansion, there's only one real target for it in the entire deck, and that is going to be when they're activating Revolt, which is when you're going to be wanting to use that on your own turn. DD Crow does not really have a place against Tribrigade, I would like to think. Only case is if they have exactly two and they normal summon a Tribrigade, you can DD Crow one of the Beast Warriors or Beasts or Wing Beasts from the grave to make it so they have to commit to another monster on field and link to get more monsters in grave. Effect Veiler, and by extension Infinite Impermanence, is really good. When they activate a Tribrigade effect, typically the first one's what you want to be hitting. When they're activating the effect where they banish for cost to special from extra, you can hit them with an Effect Veiler or Imperm, and that will typically really hinder their end board. Gamma can be useful in the same instances where Effect Veiler or Imperm are useful. But keep in mind, you want to be wary of like gamming Rescue Cat, because they can gamma your gamma, or they can ash your gamma. So, and Tribrigade is known for running quite a few hand traps. There's very few instances where you're going to be able to Nibiru in the matchup, but I really don't see it happening. I don't think running Nibiru against that deck is going to be optimal. D-Shifter is very good against the deck. Just hit shotgun at the beginning of the turn. And so is Lancia. I would recommend waiting for them to normal summon or special summon a Tribrigade first before they activate the effect. Like on resolution of summon or on summon, you can activate Lancia, so they're just sitting with a guy on board and they use your normal summon. So the hand traps I would recommend keeping against Tribrigade is going to be Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, Effect Veiler, Imperm. If your deck can run D-Shifter, Lancia, and Ash Blossom. Alright. Next deck we're going to be talking about is Phantom Knight. Phantom Knight seems to be very hand trap resilient, especially with the Brave token engine. Ash Blossom is very good against Phantom Knight. If they're running Tour Guide, which not many deck lists are running, you Ash Blossom that Tour Guide if they don't Kagamucha Knight. That's a very easy choice. If they have just a Cherubini on board, and like exclusively Cherubini, and they activate the effect, dump a Graph, and they activate Graph effect, and you see they have no other way to get a body on board that you know of, you want to be ashing that Graph instead of waiting for the Rusty Bardiche. Otherwise, you hit Rusty, you hit Torn Scale depending on the discard, you hit Cloak, you hit all those. But you really want to be waiting to see if they have an extra extender for that Graph, because if they resolve that Graph, they get so much advantage off, it's just kind of ridiculous. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries can be used in decks that don't use their extra deck. You can put like a copy of Cherubini in there, and if you take the Cherubini out of their extra deck, it makes it very hard for them to start their plays without just a way to get a free level 3 into grave from deck. So you probably just want to, like, if you have the room, you could probably be doing that. Ghost Ogre is very good, since Phantom Knight is one of the decks that is well known for running the Brave token engine. You could also hit Cherubini if there's nothing on board, making them so they have to play with, like, scraps. Ghost Bell in Haunted Mansion is quite good. I believe there is one specific interaction where you want to be hitting. You want to be hitting if they activate a PK trap on their turn to bring back a Phantom Knight. You can hit that, or you could hit if they have not activated Torn Scale's effect on field, if they have it in graveyard. If they banish something to bring PK back, or they banish something in general, and then they activate the Torn Scale effect in Grave to reborn it, that's when you Ghost Bell, because that will prevent them from bringing it back and activating that on-field effect. Another solution to this is activating DD Crow, hitting the Torn Scales when it activates its effect. But for DD Crow, you really do not want to be activating it on anything other than Torn Scales while Torn's in Grave and hasn't activated the Reborn effect, because that will allow the Torn Scales to come back even though it wasn't banished. A card wasn't banished by the player's own effect. Effect Veiler and Imperm are, I think it's the same situation as Ash Blossom, really, where you want to be hitting Tour Guide, specifically, even if they do Kagamucha, Effect Veiler and Imperm do stop it. Torn Scales is a good one, and Rusty is a good one. I believe those are the only real hits. If they start going to Leviair combos and you realize they need to be getting stuff back for more PKs, hitting a Leviair isn't always that bad either. Gamma is really good. You can be gamming Cherubini, depending on what they dump. If they dump like a Graph, then you maybe don't want to be doing that. But if they dump a Phantom Knight card, then feel free to Gamma pop Cherubini, even though they'll still dump the card. You'll get it off the board. Just keep in mind, only Gamma if they do not have any other cards on board. If they have any other cards on board, they can substitute the destruction of Cherubini by sending that card to the grave instead. Nibiru is pretty good against Phantom Knight. It typically takes 5 summons to get to Rusty Bardiche, but depending on what build they're playing, if they're playing a non-conventional build, they could typically make Requiem even after Nibiru. And they can even make it using Break Sword, because you gave them a body to Break Sword, so they don't even need Rusty at that point. D-Shifter is incredible against that deck. It really just ends their turn, but keep in mind if they set back row and you're like playing Flunder or something, more than likely one of those back row is going to be Fogblade, so you better have the Book of Moon. Lancia is very good. How you want to be Lancing is if when they dump the first PK monster and they have no traps, then you just shotgun the Lancia, but don't shotgun it immediately. Just wait until you see a monster but no traps. Alright, now on to Sky Striker. Sky Striker is going to be... Ash is pretty good. It stops Engage. You probably want to be seeing that. Ghost Reaper is pretty good. You can hit Phoenix Enforcer out of the extra. Ghost Reaper can also hit Phoenix Enforcer out of the extra of PK. I forgot to mention that. That is pretty important. Ghost Ogre is not very good, because it lets them activate Ray, and the only target you're really going to be getting to get any value is by hitting like Kagari or something, or the continuous spell multi-roll. Because you don't want to be hitting the field spell, because that'll summon a Ray from deck. Ghost Bell is pretty good. It stops them from getting Engage back after they dump it with Hayate. DD Crow does the same thing, but even better, because it gets rid of Engage for the entire game. You can also get rid of both Ghost Bell and DD Crow can stop Phoenix Enforcer from coming back as well, on their side of the field. Effect Veiler and Imperm can stop the Kagari, can stop the Hayate. So it is pretty good. And they can also stop the Shizuku in some instances, but you probably want to be stopping the Kagari or Hayate. Gamma is not very good, because every single Ray, when a Sky Striker Ace dies, it'll reborn itself from the grave, and it has a quick effect to re-link, so they can just go back into the link. Nibiru is really bad against the matchup, because they only summon like 3 times or 4 times a turn at most. They almost never go to 5. D-Shifter is kind of mid against the deck, because they don't need to be dumping Engage immediately. They have a lot of cards they can play with. All you're really doing is getting rid of some of their future multi-roll targets, and Ray. You're getting rid of Ray if they have it instead of the new one, Rose. And Lancia is really bad in the matchup. Never sided Lancia in that matchup. Alright, and so last deck is going to be Swordsoul. So we have Ash Blossom as the first one, once again. Ash Blossom is pretty good. It stops the Rhoda, it stops the Incredible Ecclesia. So I think Ash is really good against that deck. Ghost Reaper, if they're running a DPE variant, you can hit DPE, or if you have a Baron and extra or something like that, or maybe it's a mirror, you can hit the Yugioh out. Ghost Ogre is pretty good, actually, because you can hit the Taya off the field, or the Moye off field after they make the token, and they're just left with a token and nothing else, really. So it makes it so they can't go into synchros, which is pretty good. But do keep in mind they can still use the token for Blackwood, I'm pretty sure. Ghost Bell and DD Crow are not incredible in the matchup, specifically because the only interaction that there really is, and that's with DD Crow, is if they have like a single like worm or like Swordsoul in the grave, you can stop the, I believe it's Taya. Please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not too well versed on Swordsoul, but I believe you can stop the Taya by banishing that last worm or Swordsoul so they can't get the token, but I don't believe Ghost Bell or Crow is very good in the matchup. Valor and Imperm is good. You can stop the monsters from creating tokens, which stops them from getting the Yugioh and snowballing advantage. Gamma is also fairly good. It's slightly less good than Effect Valor or Imperm because it'll put a Swordsoul and Grave for Taya effect, while Effect Valor and Imperm just lets them sit on field and do nothing. Nibiru is very dead in the matchup. They make Yugioh very early if you don't interact with them, and if it makes Yugioh early, they can just negate the Nibiru. They also make Baron very early too. D-Shifter is pretty okay in the matchup. It stops them from banishing stuff for Taya, lets them like not get the resources back in the Tenyi variant. They can't get advantage by going to Monk and stuff like that. And Lancia is kind of alright in the matchup. It's not as good as it is against PK or Tribrigade, but it does stop Taya, it does stop all those other things, you know. But thank you guys so much for watching. This is a very long video. Please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. I'm going to try and improve the quality of my videos in the next couple weeks and months. You know, maybe try and up the production value and stuff like that. But again, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.